We're going to sing again now. It's a song that we don't typically sing at Christmas time. The first verse says, "Have you any room for Jesus? He who bore your load of sin, as he knocks and asks admission. Sinner, will you let him in?" Please join me as we sing together this song. No self-respecting nativity play is complete without some innkeeper saying, "Sorry, there is no room in the inn." Interestingly, the account of Luke makes no mention of the innkeeper. What it says in Luke is, "And she brought forth the firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn." But the assumption is fair. They went to an inn. The inn would have a keeper, therefore it would be the job of the innkeeper to turn them away. There are two stories in Scripture that mention an innkeeper. This is the first, the story of Mary and Joseph, and of course the Christ child. The second is the parable of the Good Samaritan. You know that story, don't you? The story where a man goes down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and partway down gets attacked by robbers, is left, as the story says, half dead. You know the story. As he's lying there dying, a Levi comes by, sees him, crosses the road. Want nothing to do with that. So too a priest came down the road, and when he saw that man laying there, he too crossed over. The story, of course, tells us then about the Samaritan. Remember the Samaritans, the one the Jews would not get anything to do with? They go around. Well, this Samaritan saw this Jew lying there. He bent down and put bandages on his wound, put him on the back of his donkey, and took him to an inn. And after staying the night, he asked the innkeeper if the innkeeper would look after this man, paid him some money to do it, but look after him, help him with his wounds. And the innkeeper readily said that he would. This is the shadow of the innkeeper. This idea was introduced on the very first Sunday of Advent for us here at the Clearwater Core, when we had what we call a hanging of the greens. As I introduced that particular service, I said Christmas makes innkeepers out of all of us. Because the question is given to us, is given to me, is given to you. Do you have room for Jesus? Do you have room for Jesus? Are you like the innkeeper of Bethlehem, who turned this family away, who turned Jesus away? Or are you the innkeeper that when the Samaritan came knocking was so willing to open his doors and do what he needed to do? Well, these words from Matthew 25, maybe think about them a little differently. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in." There is another thought, you know, when it comes to the innkeeper at Bethlehem. The thought suggests that Mary and Joseph actually were never sent away, but in fact they were offered the choicest of accommodation. I want you to think about you and the room that you have allowed Jesus, and the quality of the room that you've allowed Jesus as you listen to the words of Paul Harvey.
The Bethlehem innkeeper has been getting a bum rap. Christmas seasons and sometimes in between, pulpits are aflame with righteous wrath over the Jesus born in a manger story. The very idea that men had waited through 20 centuries of darkness and the long-sought light had to enter the world through the window of a stable. Prophets of the Old Testament had told them where to expect the baby and approximately when. And yet the innkeeper did not even reserve a room. Well, now let's hold the phone here. The innkeeper's been getting a bum rap. If Robert Schuller was not the first to remind us, he was certainly the most eloquent when once upon a Christmas time he re-recited the Bethlehem story, and he protested that the innkeeper had become the victim of cheap shots by preachers and teachers and pageant writers. The Bible does not accuse the innkeeper. Joseph did not complain to the innkeeper. Mary did not complain. Actually, the stable was a cave in a hillside where the cattle lived. It had many advantages over a room at the inn. The inn in Bethlehem was no Marriott hotel. It was a place where the masses collected, ruffians and thieves and heavy drinkers, rowdy men. In the inn, there would have been no soft straw bed. Mary would have had to lie on a hard floor. The inn was jam-packed at tax-paying time. The groans and natural screams of a teenage mother delivering her first child would have been overheard in other rooms. In the stable was privacy, where nobody would overhear her labor, no leering eyes would peer upon a woman giving birth. The stable was safe and secure, and warmer than the inn. The inn was without heat, no furnaces, no more than one lobby fireplace, but the wide nostrils of cattle exhaling steam, breathing in the cold air and breathing out the warm air, warmed the stable. What might Joseph have done to protect his tax money against the thieves and the ruffians in the inn? Yet in the safety of the stable there was no fear of a knife at one's throat in the night. So God and the innkeeper cooperated to provide a perfect place for Jesus to be born. A safe place, a quiet, soft, warm, comparatively comfortable, perfect place. And besides, the much maligned innkeeper of Bethlehem had given the best that he had. And isn't that all that is asked of any of us?